A single copper wire stretched across a roaring jungle river can silence the most advanced electronic battlefield ever built. For nearly a decade, the United States dropped more than 2 million tons of explosives on a strip of land running through Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, trying to sever this fragile lifeline. Yet, despite a firestorm equivalent to hundreds of Hiroshima-sized bombs, the supplies did not stop, they multiplied. How did a nation with virtually no heavy industry or air force out-engineer the superpower that put a man on the moon? This was not a simple road. It was an organic, constantly shifting labyrinth of over 12,000 miles of tracks, bypasses, fuel pipelines, and underground barracks. To understand the Vietnam War, one must understand how this logistical miracle was built, defended, and operated under a continuous rain of steel. The story begins not with heavy machinery, but with absolute silence. In the late 1950s, the leadership in Hanoi faced a critical dilemma. The Geneva Accords of 1954 had divided Vietnam at the 17th parallel, but the dream of a unified nation remained. As conflict intensified, in the south, the southern fighters needed weapons, medicine, reinforcements. The sea routes were heavily patrolled by the U.S. Navy, leaving only the rugged, malaria-ridden Truong Son mountains as a viable corridor. The task of opening this route fell to a highly classified unit known as Group 559. Established in May 1959, their instructions were absolute. Establish a supply line through some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth, and do it without leaving a single trace that could alert Western intelligence. The early pioneers of the trail operated under rules of extreme secrecy. They walked barefoot or in rubber sandals, carefully stepping on rocks to avoid leaving footprints. They did not break branches. They did not light fires during the day. They did not speak above a whisper. If a leaf was disturbed, the rear guard would sweep it back into place. Every ounce of supply had to be carried on human backs or loaded onto modified French-built Peugeot bicycles, reinforced with bamboo poles to carry up to 300 kilograms of cargo. This was a war of ounces, where survival depended on invisibility. They traveled only at night, navigating by the dim light of the stars, or using decayed wood that glowed in the dark as trail markers. To cook their meals, without releasing telltale plumes of smoke, they utilized the ingenious Hoang cam stove, a subterranean cooker that dispersed smoke through a series of underground trenches, cooling it and releasing it at ground level where it appeared as harmless morning mist. Yet, they pressed on, laying the foundation for what would become the most contested strip of land in modern military history. To appreciate the scale of this achievement, we must look at the geopolitical reality of Southeast Asia. In 1959, the Geneva Accords had created a temporary border, but the political landscape was highly volatile. Hanoi realized that supporting the southern resistance required a continuous flow of materiel, but the international community was watching. Any overt violation of Laotian or Cambodian neutrality could trigger a direct global conflict. Therefore, route had to be carved through the dense, triple canopy jungles of the Truong Son Range, utilizing the sovereign territory of neighboring Laos and Cambodia. With their tacit consent, Colonel Vo Bam, the leader of Group 559, initially had only a few hundred men under his command. The geography they faced was terrifying. Sheer cliffs, deep gorges, rushing rivers, and a climate that swung violently between suffocating heat and torrential monsoon rains. Malaria was a constant, invisible killer, claiming more lives in the early days than enemy action. The initial transport methods were agonizingly slow. Porters carried loads of 20 to 30 kilograms over mountain passes for weeks at a time. The introduction of the XE, though, or pack bicycle, was a major breakthrough. By reinforcing the frame, handlebars, and forks with bamboo and wood. A single operator could push a load of over 200 kilograms. These bicycle pushers, known as the steel horses, walked alongside their vehicles, guiding them through narrow mountain paths. This low-tech solution bypassed the need for motorable roads and kept the supply line completely hidden from early aerial reconnaissance. However, as the conflict escalated in the mid-1960s, the United States began committing hundreds of thousands of combat troops to South Vietnam. The demand for supplies skyrocketed from tons per month to hundreds of tons per day. The era of the barefoot porter and the pack bicycle was no longer sufficient. The trail had to evolve from a secret footpath into an industrialized, high-capacity logistical highway. This transition required an unprecedented mobilization of human labor, engineering ingenuity, and sheer physical courage, setting the stage for one of the most intense engineering battles in human history. The Vietnamese leadership realized that to win a modern war, they had to build a modern logistical system, but they had to do it under the cover of the jungle. They needed to move heavy trucks, artillery, and thousands of troops daily, all while being hunted from the sky. To achieve this, they mobilized hundreds of thousands of youth volunteers, local villagers, and specialized engineering units. These workers began carving out bypasses, building bridges, and widening paths into actual roads. They worked in shifts around the clock, enduring not only the constant threat of air strikes, but also the harsh realities of the jungle, from venomous snakes to severe sleep deprivation. The transformation of the Ho Chi Minh Trail into a modern logistical network was a monumental feat of engineering. Beginning in 1965, Hanoi dispatched tens of thousands of youth volunteers, engineers, and soldiers to the Truong Son mountains. Among them were thousands of young women who worked in the most dangerous sectors, clearing landslides, repairing bombed roads, and guiding truck convoys. The trail was organized into a series of bin trams, or military logistical stations. Each bin tram was a self-contained world, responsible for a specific segment of the trail. It managed its own security, air defense, vehicle repair shops, medical clinics, and underground storage depots. To counter the growing threat of American air observation, the engineers designed a system of canopy roads. They pulled the tops of trees together over the roads, tying them with wire to create a living green tunnel that hid the trucks from aerial view. Where the jungle was thin, they planted fast-growing bamboo to cover the gaps. They built underwater bridges, constructed just inches below the water's surface, making them completely invisible from the air while still strong enough to support heavy trucks. When the sun went down, the trail came alive. Convoys of Soviet-built ZIL-130 and GAZ-63 trucks, painted in deep green camouflage, drove through the night with their headlights masked, using only tiny, downward-pointing lights mounted under their chassis to illuminate the road directly in front of their tires. Drivers, known as the pilots of the battleground, had to navigate treacherous mountain passes, deep mud, and unexploded ordnance in near-total darkness. They developed an intimate knowledge of the terrain, memorizing every curve, pothole, and bomb crater. Meanwhile, United States realized that ground operations in South Vietnam were futile. If they could not cut off this supply line, they launched Operation Commando Hunt. In 1968, a massive, systematic aerial interdiction campaign. The goal was simple: make the trail impassable through sheer destructive force. The skies over Laos and central Vietnam became the stage for a technological duel that would push both nations to their absolute limits. The Americans poured billions of dollars into advanced technology, while the Vietnamese relied on human endurance and simple, effective countermeasures. The scale of Operation Commando hunt was staggering. U.S. aircraft, including B-52 bombers, jet fighters, and specialized gunships, flew hundreds of sorties daily, dropping cluster bombs, napalm, and high-explosive ordnance. They targeted key choke points, mountain passes, and river crossings, turning the lush green jungle into a desolate, cratered moonscape. Yet, for every bomb that fell, the defenders of the trail had a countermeasure. They realized that the key to survival was not preventing the bombs from falling, but minimizing the time it took to repair the damage. The climax of the battle for the Ho Chi Minh Trail was a clash of high technology versus human adaptability. The United States deployed the most advanced surveillance system of its era, known as Operation Igloo White. They dropped tens of thousands of acoustic and seismic sensors, disguised as jungle plants, across the trail network. These sensors detected the vibrations of truck engines and the sounds of human footsteps, transmitting the data to a massive IBM supercomputer complex in Nakhon Phanom, Thailand. Within minutes of a sensor activation, the computer calculated the speed and direction of the convoy and dispatched heavily armed AC-130 Spectre gunships to intercept them. The AC-130S, equipped with night vision scopes, infrared sensors, and rapid-fire cannons, patrolled the dark skies, hunting for the heat signatures of truck engines. It was a terrifyingly efficient system. But the Vietnamese logistical forces quickly adapted. When they discovered the sensors, they began neutralizing them with ingenious countermeasures. They hung buckets of urine near the acoustic sensors to confuse them, or played tape recordings of truck noises in empty areas, draw American bombers away from the real convoys. They dragged branches behind oxen to simulate truck movements, causing the U.S. to waste millions of dollars of ordnance on empty jungle. To counter the infrared sensors of the AC-130S, drivers wrapped their truck engines in wet straw or banana leaves to mask the dog heat. They also developed a highly effective warning system. Spotters stationed along the trail would listen for the hum of incoming aircraft and fire flares, or ring bells to warn the convoys to pull under the canopy and extinguish their lights. If a section of the road was bombed, thousands of youth volunteers would emerge from underground bunkers immediately after the raid, working through the night with shovels, baskets, and bare hands to fill the craters. Before the next convoy arrived, the Mujia and Ban Karai passes, the primary entry points into the trail, were bombed daily, yet they were never closed for more than a few hours at a time. This relentless human wave defeated the most sophisticated electronic battlefield of the 20th century. The Americans even resorted to environmental warfare, launching Operation Popeye, a highly classified cloud seeding program designed to extend the monsoon season and turn the trail into an impassable swamp. In response, the Vietnamese engineers simply laid down millions of logs to create corduroy roads, allowing trucks to drive over the deep mud. They also mobilized thousands of local villagers to manually tow vehicles through the worst sections. By 1971, the failure of the aerial campaign forced a dramatic shift in strategy. The United States and South Vietnam realized that the only way to stop the flow of supplies was a large-scale ground invasion to physically cut the trail. This led to Operation Lam Son 719, launched in February 1971. South Vietnamese forces, heavily supported by U.S. air power and artillery, crossed the border into Laos with the objective of capturing the key logistical hub of Chaponay. It was the ultimate test of the trail's defenses, but the North Vietnamese command had anticipated this move. The trail was no longer just a network of dirt roads. It was a heavily fortified zone defended by tens of thousands of combat-hardened troops, sophisticated anti-aircraft artillery, and, for the first time, conventional armor. the North Vietnamese launched a massive counteroffensive. Utilizing Soviet-supplied tanks and heavy artillery, the South Vietnamese forces found themselves outnumbered, outgunned, and cut off in the rugged terrain. The invasion ended in a disastrous retreat, proving that the Ho Chi Minh Trail was now a sovereign, heavily fortified corridor that could not be severed by ground forces. Following the victory at Lam Son, 719, the expansion of the trail accelerated at an unbelievable pace. The engineers constructed a continuous 5,000-kilometer-long fuel pipeline that ran from the Chinese border all the way to Loc Ninh, just 100 kilometers north of Saigon. This pipeline pumped millions of gallons of diesel and gasoline directly to the front lines, eliminating the need for vulnerable fuel trucks. By 1973, the Paris Peace Accords led to the withdrawal of U.S. combat troops, and the trail became a multi-lane highway, fully paved in many sections, complete with a comprehensive telephone communication network. The logistical miracle was complete, and the stage was set for the final conventional offensive that would decide the war. The trail had evolved from a fragile line of porters into an unstoppable juggernaut of military power. This massive infrastructure project allowed the North Vietnamese army to transition from guerrilla tactics to large-scale, conventional warfare. In the final stages of the conflict, they were able to rapidly transport entire divisions, complete with heavy artillery, tanks, and anti-aircraft missile systems, directly to the gates of Saigon. It bypassed the need for thousands of vulnerable fuel trucks, ensuring that the mechanized divisions of the North would never run out of the fuel required to sustain their rapid advance. The trail was no longer a mere supply line. It was the steel spine of the unification effort. The success of the Ho Chi Minh Trail offers profound lessons for modern military theory and the study of human conflict. For decades, Western military planners operated under the assumption that superior technology, absolute air supremacy, and overwhelming firepower could isolate a battlefield and starve an enemy of resources. The trail proved this assumption wrong. It demonstrated that logistics is not merely a mathematical equation of tonnage, transport capacity, and destruction. Instead, it is a human endeavor driven by adaptability, determination, and national mobilization. While the United States viewed the conflict through the lens of systems analysis and cost-benefit ratios, the Vietnamese viewed it as a total war of national survival. Every citizen, driver, engineer, and porter was an active participant in a decentralized, self-healing network. If one node was destroyed, 10 others emerged to take its place. This organic resilience made the trail virtually indestructible. Furthermore, the geopolitical constraints of the Cold War severely limited American military options, fearing a direct intervention by China or the Soviet Union. The United States chose not to launch a permanent ground occupation of Laos or Cambodia. This sanctuary allowed the trail to operate and expand, proving that military strategy cannot be divorced from political reality. The Ho Chi Minh Trail remains one of the greatest engineering and logistical achievements in human history, a testament to what can be accomplished when human resourcefulness is pushed to its absolute limits against overwhelming odds. It redefined the concept of asymmetric warfare, showing that a determined, highly organized population can overcome the most technologically advanced military machine on Earth. It forces us to reconsider the balance between technological supremacy and human willpower. In modern military doctrine, this is often referred to as resilient logistics or distributed operations. But back then, it was simply the only way to survive. The Vietnamese understood that a static target is a dead target, so they built redundancy into every level of their network. For every main road, there were dozens of bypasses and alternative routes. If a bridge was destroyed, traffic was immediately rerouted to an underwater crossing or a ferry system. Ultimately, the trail proved that no amount of technological sophistication can guarantee victory if it is divorced from a deep understanding of the human element and the political realities of the conflict zone. Today, much of the legendary Ho Chi Minh Trail has been reclaimed by the lush jungle, while other sections have been transformed into the modern Ho Chi Minh Highway, a vital artery connecting the north and south of a unified Vietnam. Travelers can now drive on paved roads where young volunteers once dodged cluster bombs and guided convoys in the dark. The physical scars of the war are fading, but the memory of the sheer human effort that built and defended this lifeline remains deeply etched in the national consciousness. It stands as a monument to a generation that sacrificed everything for the dream of independence and unity. What do you think is the most remarkable aspect of this logistical feat? Was it the low-tech ingenuity of the pack bicycles, the bravery of the truck drivers, or the failure of the world's most advanced electronic battlefield? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into military history fascinating, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of strategy, survival, and human endurance. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts who want to understand the real stories behind the world's most famous conflicts. Your support helps us continue to produce high-quality, historically accurate documentaries that bring these incredible stories to life. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next episode as we continue to explore the complex, dramatic history of Vietnam. The legacy of the Truong Son soldiers and volunteers is preserved in numerous museums, monuments, and cemeteries along the former route, serving as a solemn reminder of the immense human cost of the war. Hundreds of thousands of people worked on the trail, and tens of thousands lost their lives to bombings, diseases, and accidents. Their sacrifice is celebrated as a cornerstone of modern Vietnamese identity, symbolizing the triumph of determination over seemingly insurmountable odds. The highway that once carried the instruments of war now facilitates the commerce, tourism, and daily life of a thriving, unified nation, bridging the past and the future in a way that those early pioneers could only have dreamed of. Your engagement, comments, and shares are what keep this channel alive, allowing us to bring these complex historical narratives to a global audience. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And as always, keep exploring the stories that shaped our world.